Fixit.com. This is day 5 of the sunflower tank sew-along here at Mama Can Do It. Today we're going to hem, and that also includes the top stitching of the binding, otherwise today would be way too short. So I'm going to get started with my binding already attached to my neckband, to my neckline. I'll bring it over and I'll show you. So you can see where it's attached. Now I'm going to press the seam allowance up and pull the binding over. And I'm going to keep going around and pinning. Press the seam allowance up, fold the binding over that. So the width of your binding will just be the width of your seam allowance. In this case, my serger makes a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So the width of my binding will basically add a 1/4 inch to what would have been the raw neck. So I'll keep going around, and remember I'm going to do this 2 more times for the arms as well, because the arms are finished in the same way as the neck. I put a tag in my center back, but you might want to use a ribbon or something softer. Just make sure that you're pressing that up and then folding it over. And I notice that I want to pin more often because I can sort of lose track of where it can come undone, I guess, quite easily when I'm cover stitching. So I'm doing this with my cover stitch, which I think actually makes it a bit more challenging than a sewing machine, because with a sewing machine you would understitch from the wrong side and you'd be able to see exactly how far you are from the neckline. I chose to use my cover stitch, so I have to do it from the front. So now I'm hemming the bottom and pinning the bottom hemline, which I'll take to my cover stitch at the same time. I like to sort of batch my sewing. So I'm using a hem gauge. There's lots of different ways to measure your hem. Some people just eyeball it. Some people don't even pin. I learned that in a poll in this group. I have to pin. That's just, I don't know, I can't stop. I've also heard some people like to serge the edge so that they get a consistent measurement and then fold that over, or use strips of iron-on interfacing cut to a specific measurement and then fold that over. All different ways to be able to get to a consistent measurement without having to use a hem gauge. But my mom uses a hem gauge, so I just assume that's the right way to do it. So, sorry, you're gonna get to see me thread my whole cover stitch here. Those of you on a sewing machine probably feel like you were done sewing by the time I'm done threading this thing. And I think Elizabeth just got this same one. So, this is the Brother 2340 CV. I think most everybody that I sew with who has a cover stitch seems to have this one, because it's about $150 cheaper than all the others. But it gets the job done. I actually am very, very happy with it. So I'm putting in navy blue, and you'll notice that almost all my sunflowers are now going to be navy blue. So here we go. I started with the bottom hem because it's my favorite. It goes really fast. So I just wanted to crank that out first. It kind of gives me that satisfaction. Also making sure that my machine is properly threaded when I try it on something that's not too difficult. So I'm all the way around already. I'm gonna end my stitch and lock it into the wrong side. So there we go, I checked it, it's all good. Now it's time to start the binding. So I have the front side up, which means that I'm holding pretty firm to hold the folded over edge down as I go through, to make sure that I'm really getting a nice tight binding line as I go through, and that it's not sort of coming undone. I think that if my fabric had been slippery, Wonder Tape would probably have been a really good idea here. I'm using a brushed poly, so it's not very slippery. So again, going to do the neckline and both arms the same way using this single fold binding method. I will admit I had a little trouble on one of these. I think my fabric curled. So you are going to have some extra fabric because the binding piece has a greater width than you really need. So if you want to do the math here real quick, you have a pretty wide binding piece. You're going to take off 3/8 of it when you do your seam allowance, but then you're still going to have quite a bit. You're going to fold it over 1/4 inch, but then you're going to have some excess. So you might want to go back afterwards and trim that excess if it bothers you. Um, if not, it doesn't hurt anything. You can leave it there. So we're all done. I can't wait to see these sunflower tanks. I'm super excited about the new release in plus sizes. And so I hope that my newsfeed is just going to be flooded with lots and lots of sunflower tanks here in the next few days.